RotoGrinders! Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD, BlenderHD. If you want to follow me on Twitter. And it's Tuesday, January 2nd. And we'll be taking a look at the 13-game NHL slate today. So I know it's a kind of a slow Tuesday. Get your entries in the lobby. I'm assuming, Tim, Tim's here, right? Tasteful Tides, Tim BUELL, hockey extraordinaire, part of our RotoGrinders Discord. Obviously, he'll be doing some NBA stuff. He'll be doing tons of stuff. But with it being Tuesday, not much is going on. One would expect that the contest in the DraftKings lobby, because they don't do a very good job of sizing them. I'm gonna suspect that some of these DPPs maybe filled good 4 or 5 hours before lock.
I completely agree. I got into everything I wanted to play last night just so I didn't have any issues today.
Right, and they're running a $20 large field one, $20K to first. There's still the poke check, the $5 large GPP. I play primarily the 222, the 88, and the $40 one, the 5K to, like, they're smaller fields, right? Obviously, the 222 and the 88 are like 100 or less. And the $40 one is like 500 or 600 entries. But the large field stuff is like 5,000 entries. And there's definitely a difference, Tim, of how you would construct different size fields. I'm not really as concerned about, on a 13-game slate, there's 26 teams to choose from. Some weird thing may win the large field contest. But in the small field stuff, like, if somehow, Arizona puts up 6 goals, you may not need them in the small. I mean, like, it may not matter. Like, some of these players may be so low owned that you don't need them in small field. But so that's why I focus on the teams. It's not that complicated of a game. Focus on the teams that are projected to score a lot of goals, and then try to get as much value as you can in combination with them. Correlate your lineups and hope for the best.
That's right.
What are the top targets overall on this slate that we should really be looking at? Because it's 13 games, a lot of choices. But I think there's maybe 3 or 4 clearer spots on the slate.
Yeah.
Which ones would those be?
So I think Dallas would be one team. They have, I think, the highest implied team total at 3.99. Going up against Montreal in Dallas, that would be a top target. I think Boston is going to be very, very popular. Nashville, I think, is going to be very popular as well. And then you have Detroit going up against San Jose, late night hammer. And then Colorado, I think, will be kind of popular, but they're pretty expensive, but they're in a great spot. And then we have to talk about Minnesota too.
Okay, I think we also have to talk about Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of really good spots in this slate.
Right. So let's first talk about Dallas. I'm going to bring up, obviously we have all of our projections here in Lineup HQ. I mean, they've been updated. They get updated like immediately. We found out, Brian Russ is going to be back for the Penguins. Dane is in there updating all of that. We have, I always like the starting lineups page. I mean, it's free. I mean, you don't even need a RotoGrinder sub for this, and it just shows you all the lines, especially when you're correlating. And you're kind of like looking for, what's good value combined together. But let's take a look at Dallas. I'm not sure how. I don't think Dallas is going to be the chalk on this slate.
No, maybe not the chalkiest, but I think they will garner some ownership. Ownership's going to be pretty spread out today because the slate's so big.
Right. But I mean, to me, I view this slate as there are certain lines and certain players that are of good value. Like, it depends on, like you said, Colorado. It's like Colorado isn't a value stack. Like, Correct. It's not like, right? And then we have other teams like Pittsburgh, where it may not be the highest projection, but may have the best value point per dollar type of thing.
Or Minnesota, yeah.
Right. So let's look at Dallas first. The the thing that always annoys me about Dallas is that it feels, at least for me, it feels like they play. I mean, obviously, line one plays more than line two and
Right.
three, but I think it's a little bit closer in minutes. Like, you take a look at the first line of Hintz, Robertson, and Pavelski. Obviously, Ben joins the power play one. Heiskanen joins power play one. But a lot of times the value is actually in line two with Seguin, Marchment, and Duchesne. And the thing is that, like, the lines, like line one will play like 22 minutes, and line two will play like 19 minutes, and line three will play like 16, 17 minutes. So when you target Dallas, it's not like I don't view them as like spread out as Carolina.
Right.
But I think that because even though Dallas may have the highest implied team total, the value kind of gets spread out. You could play a lot of guys on the team, and I think people also try to avoid situations like that because it's like, do I really want to pay up $6,900 for Robertson and then just see like line two get 3 goals, and you're sitting there?
I think they are good play for MME though. Maybe not single entry, but they have to be part of your portfolio if you're MMEing tonight.
So which would be the 3 to 4 man that you would go if you had to choose the 3 or 4? I like always pairing a defender. Like, like I try to look for that type of thing. Like, to me,
I would go PP1. You could afford it. You can go the full PP1, or just go Heiskanen, Robertson, Pavelski, and Hintz, and leave off Ben. You can't afford to do that.
Ben could provide you some value. I mean,
yeah.
I almost feel like I'd rather just do Hintz, Robertson, Ben, Heiskanen.
Yeah.
Than find something else. I mean, if you just look at like point per dollar wise.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can easily go full PP1. That's why I kind of like them, because they're so affordable. You can go the full power play. I agree with you though that they don't play top minutes. So, you are right how you analyze that. They do spread out their ice time.
Right.
Yeah.
Other teams that we mentioned on the slate, the top targets, Detroit. Obviously, once I see San Jose,
right,
on the schedule, say Montreal to some extent also, right? San Jose, you go, okay, who's playing San Jose? Detroit's not like a great team, but how would you play Detroit? Because I'm not a big fan. Like, these are these weird situations where like line two technically is the better line. They tend to spread it out. Now, I know line 3 and 4, they don't get as much ice time or anything like that. But like line 2, all 3 guys are on the power play. I'm not a big fan of paying up $7,100 for DeBrincat. Like, and JT Compher is like, I don't know. I mean, he's there.
Right.
Like, and like they have like a third line defender playing on the power play with Gusta Berriere or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see many people playing Detroit today just because like the combinations, like Larkin at 7,700 seems kind of pricey.
It is pricey. I do like Gostisbehere though. He's only 4,200 PP1. I like Gostisbehere quite a bit. I like Kane quite a bit. So you could take like pieces here and there. Maybe break up your stacks a little bit. Maybe not do a full line stack, but I think you should have exposure against San Jose. I think Gostisbehere, even though I'm not a big fan of his, is too cheap in this matchup.
Because I'm looking, I'm like, how would I piece this together? Because it feels like to me, it feels like I would.
Well, you could go.
I'd be more likely to just like Kane as a one-off, right? Like, I feel like Kane as a one-off it seems cool to me.
Or just do a Gostisbehere Kane 2-man. Get a little bit of exposure to that power play, and it's relatively cheap too.
Okay, well, we'll see what comes up in the.
The other thing that I think we have to talk about, I don't think Detroit's going to be that popular because they're not projecting that well. So
no, they're not. Well, that's the point I'm making, Tim. That's the point.
So I mean, it's like, yes, they're not projecting well, so that might be a reason to get over the field on them. Even though they're not stacks that we necessarily want to play because it's such a good matchup.
Talking about good matchups, Boston against Columbus.
That's my favorite.
I mean, if you're going to pay up for anyone, if you had a choice, would you play McKinnon or Pasternak today?
It's really, really close. I think it's Pasternak, but I mean, it's really close. I like the match. I like both the matchups really, but I really like Boston against Columbus.
Now, how would you play Boston?
Boston is just. I mean, I would just stack that first line. Really, I mean, there's no reason to get cute. You could go to line 2 also, I suppose. But line 1, Geeky, Zaka, Pasternak, like I absolutely love that stack.
I think McAvoy at 5,900. I mean, his price has actually come a little bit down.
Yep.
I don't necessarily think people are going to pay up for McAvoy. I think people will try to like get the value in like Lindholm on power play too. Like, I don't mind, truthfully, on the if you needed value, let's say you were playing Colorado. Like, let's say you were playing a McKinnon, Rantanen type of lineup. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to playing like a Lindholm, DeBrusk. Like I think Marchand is the one that goes the least owned out of like, because yes, he's on power play 1, but he's 6,600. I think more people will be willing to play. Like, I don't mind playing like line 2, like playing Pasternak, almost playing a combo of like power play 1 and line 2 with Lindholm. So you're trying to get like the DeBrusk and Lindholm in the power play 2. And then you play Marchand, who's also in combination with DeBrusk on his line 2. And then you play Geeky and Pasternak, like some type of, it's not like the full line. All of them don't play together, but Boston could easily score 4 or 5 goals today. And, you know, some of these prices, DeBrusk at 3,700. I mean, what does he really have to do to get there? If he gets a point, he's there. Geeky, if he gets a point, he's there.
I love Geeky. I love Geeky Pasternak today. Geeky at 4K is absurd. Just you play him.
Here's a question. With Pasternak. Pasternak's probably going to be chalky. I mean, some of these guys are going to be chalky.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to be super chalky because there's so many guys to pay up for today, and there's so many different ways you can play this slate.
Well, the question I'm asking is that would you be more inclined to play Pasternak as a one-off or McKinnon as a one-off?
Probably McKinnon, but it's close. Those guys are so close.
Well,
but McKinnon's line mates are so expensive, you know, whereas Pasternak's aren't. So,
well, but that's the point. But that's kind of the point that I'm making, Tim, from a combinatorial like leverage perspective of that. Obviously, these players are correlated to each other. So if Pasternak does well, most likely he's taking other pieces with him from Boston. Being that Boston, like, I think there are going to be more lineups that have Pasternak plus multiple Bruins than McKinnon having multiple Avalanche. So, like, that makes me much more comfortable playing McKinnon as a one-off because if, let's say Rantanen has 27 and Makar has 30, I mean, like, and McKinnon has 40, it's like, not many people are playing, like, the ownership on, like, the full Colorado line is just so expensive that more people are going to be playing one-offs of that. While if Pasternak, let's say Pasternak gets 5 points today, like, if you're playing other people in your lineup that are 4 and 5K, it's like, it's almost pointless because probably Geeky, Zaka, Marchand, McAvoy, all these other guys, it's going to be, if Pasternak has 3 goals and 2 assists or something, like, it's hard to see these 4 or 5K guys not scoring enough points that you'd rather have them in your lineup than what other, you know, if you're playing some other team in your lineup as well. So to me, like, if I had a choice between the two, I'm not saying you can't play Pasternak as a one-off, but given the choice, I think I prefer McKinnon as a one-off than playing Pasternak on his own, at least in GPP.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
Let's scroll down a bit. You talked about Minnesota. Minnesota doesn't have the highest implied team total,
No.
But from a value perspective, their power play one, especially with Kaprizov gone. Now, obviously, it's going to be worse. Like, Tim, can you talk a little bit about, like, one of their star players is out, so it's thrusting people that are obviously cheaper in price into new roles.
Right.
How much of an effect does that have just like on the team? I know they're facing Calgary, so it's not a tough matchup or anything.
It's
But
definitely
like,
going to hurt them. It definitely hurts them, but not like a huge amount. It's not like basketball though, where like all of a sudden you have these like auto lock values, right? So guys like Hartman are not like auto values. Guys like Johansson is not like an auto value. But I mean, they are in a really good spot and they are cheap. So it is still a good play.
And you said before the show you think that the best lock play of the slate is Spurgeon at 43.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think if I play Minnesota, the value way to play Minnesota, you could play power play one, but you play it with Boldy, Rossi, Hartman, and Spurgeon.
Mm-hmm.
And in that type of lineup, I mean, you could kind of do whatever the hell you want in the rest of your lineup.
Right.
I mean, I would throw in, like, to me, I would throw in like Eck into some of those as well. But I think I would prioritize. I think on this team, I would prioritize Spurgeon 1.
Right.
Like, would you agree with me? Spurgeon 1, Hartman 2, Rossi 3, Boldy 4, Erickson Eck 5.
I'd go Rossi 2, Boldy 3. That's what I would do.
So you're not big into Hartman?
I'm not super big into Hartman, no. I would prefer getting
nice projection. He's a double-digit projection at 4,600. I got to pay attention to that.
What's Rossi's projection?
8.98. I mean, he's 2.5 points lower than Hartman. Of course, he's 600 cheaper.
Okay, I didn't notice Hartman's projection. That's huge.
Right. Well, that's why I said I was like I would rank Hartman too.
Yeah. I'm
surprised. I'm into Minnesota today, but I could see, Tim, there's a world where there may be a lot more some of these guys as like one-offs in other people's lineups. I don't think Minnesota goes like, oh, well, they have a lower implied team total or whatever. You can't really ignore the value against Calgary, who I believe, you could tell me, I believe they give up a ton of shots.
I don't think they give up a ton of shots. They take a ton of shots. But yeah, I don't know if they give up a ton of shots, but I mean, it's still a good spot for the prices, right? You know, it's still a good spot considering how cheap Minnesota is.
People in chat are saying that we're nuts, that Hartman shouldn't be projected that high.
Well, I disagree. Our projections are amazing. So if that's how he's projected, then that's great. I just didn't notice it.
Okay, let's scroll down a bit. Other teams that we mentioned previously. Let's talk about Pittsburgh. Okay. Yep. I mean, we'll talk about Nashville also, but let's talk about Pittsburgh.
I have to talk about Rickard Rakell, who keeps busting every day as chalk.
Right. So tell me, I haven't been playing NHL the past week, so
yeah, he's super cheap. He's been super cheap. He's not doing that well. He's been very, very highly owned. But he's still in a good spot and he's still too cheap. So great spot, power play one, line one. So yeah, he's in a really good spot.
And if you're not in our Discord, you should be. RotoGrinders.com/Discord. It's actually free, so you could join it. And Dane and Tim and Taylor are there. Any relevant news, any morning skate info, any coach talk, they post literally everything. You do not need Twitter. You do not need news alerts or nothing. Like, just go into the Discord. They have everything. We just got word before the show, Brian Rust is back. So it's not updated on the starting lineups page. And based on the morning skate, Rust was skating with the second line. So, and the power play one line is still going to have Raquel on it. So it's going to be Malkin, Smith, and Russ. So basically, O'Connor is going to be pushed down.
Yeah.
Does that necessarily change anything? I don't necessarily.
Not really.
Mean that I want to play Rust or anything, but
I think Malkin's too cheap. at 63.
So if you were to play Pittsburgh, how would you play Pittsburgh as a 4-man?
I would just do power play 1 without Crosby.
Oh, so you prefer Malkin to Crosby?
Yeah, I do.
So you do something like Malkin, Geltzel, Raquel, and Carlson?
Yeah.
As a 4-man, if you were going to play a 4-man.
If you were to do a 4-man, yeah.
Right. Okay. Do you think how popular do you think Pittsburgh is being? And also, do you think people are less likely to click on Raquel, even though he's going to produce? If you're using projections, he's naturally going to project pretty well for 4K. Is this going to be a slate where Raquel is 25% owned as a one-off, or people are just like,
not
I'm
that
done
high
with him, and they're not going to click on him?
He won't be that high. Not on this big of a slate with so many other good values.
Okay, Nashville. To me, I think Nashville's easy. My dummy lineup that I built, like, I mean, O'Reilly, Forsberg, Nyquist. Like, what's like it? To me, Nashville tends to be straightforward, especially now that they've kind of moved stuff around with Evangelista and Novak. It just like, can you play Sissons as part of a power play 1 type of like 4-man? I just like Nashville's kind of just straightforward. It's like, just play line 1, and if you want to pay up for Josie, pay up for Josie.
Yeah.
If you don't have money, then he can't. And I don't
That's
mind
what I would do.
playing Ryan McDonough on the first. And I mean, I don't think he has that much upside, but if Nashville scores a bunch of goals, he could still get a point or two assist wise.
Right.
I mean, am I underthinking this? It just seems kind of obvious. Like, just gonna be
I think
Nyquist,
you're right.
O'Reilly, Forsberg, and you're done, and you're good.
I think you're spot on. Just play line 1 with Yossi. Don't worry about Sissons either on the slate. I don't think too big of a slate to get cute with him. Too many good values, really.
Right, but out of all these Nashville players, to me, I wouldn't play any line combination without Forsberg.
Yeah,
is there a world where the Nashville gets there and Forsberg's sitting there with nothing?
Probably not. I could say that about Yossi though too. He's only 6,900. That's dirt cheap for him.
And I think the value you get with Nyquist and O'Reilly, I think you could. I mean, I fit in. I mean, dude, it's literally sitting in my dummy lineup. Then Nashville power play 1.
They're so easy to play, but then again, so many teams are today. Very soft pricing today, other than Colorado, I think.
Right. I think my dummy lineup is Nashville 1 with Minnesota power play 1. And that's doable.
Right.
Another team you wanted to talk about, their team total is good, right? They project okay, but not great for their prices. And that's Vancouver against Ottawa.
Yeah, I just love picking on Ottawa. They can't stop anyone on the power play, and they struggle on 5-on-5. They're going to be a forgotten team today. So I really love Vancouver and large field GPPs. They correlate very well. So I just think that a lot of people aren't going to get to them today. I love them. They're one of my favorite GPP plays. So like Pedersen.
Are you willing to pay $7K for Hughes?
Maybe not Hughes, but definitely that line, like Miller, Besser, Pedersen. But I mean, I think you could play Hughes because I love this power play. I love picking on Ottawa's penalty kill. So I think you could.
How would you play? Because I mean, personally, I prefer Peterson over Miller and Bozer. But I mean, $7K. It's one of these things where I look at the pricing and I go, they're overpriced for their mean,
right?
But their ceiling is immense.
Right.
Like if you were to play something like Miller, Peterson, Bozer, something. Is there a cheap piece here or some Kuzmenko? You throw in a Kuzmenko or something,
yeah,
for salary relief, right?
Yep.
You play like four of these guys.
He's on PP. He's on PP1 too,
right?
I want this first power play quite a bit. I
thing
think
is, you're not going to be able to play Vancouver with Colorado. You're not going to
no.
The problem with Vancouver is just like you're going to have to find. They have to be your expensive stack, and you better hope that Vancouver scores a bunch of goals.
Right. But I mean, you're going to need a ton of goals to win tonight. Bottom line. I mean, I know that's not rocket science, but like you're going to need a ton tonight to win. You better hope your line goes off big time to have a chance tonight.
Is there anyone else on the board? I mean, because like we talked Detroit, Boston, these are the bigger favorites, right? Minnesota has some value. They're still a favorite. We got Dallas, obviously. The way that I play, like I may not veer away from much of what we just talked about and just plug in random one-offs here and there from maybe some other teams. But another favorite here, and we should
talk about Edmonton real quick. Leon Draisaitl.
You took the words out of my mouth, Tim.
Yeah, Leon Draisaitl is still way too cheap at 7,400. I mean, he should always be over 8K. So he could be a contrarian one-off tonight, big time.
Well, I mean, how many people are playing Connor McDavid tonight with McKinnon and Pastrnak being owned?
Right.
The problem is you play McDavid and Draisaitl together. You're gonna have to go look inside the cushions of your couch to find salary for the rest of your lineup.
Right.
I don't mind Draisaitl as a one-off. In fact, I prefer using him as a one-off because just like he correlates with power play 1, but outside on even strength, like his line mates are never projected well.
No.
That I ever want to play McLeod or Foegele or any of these other guys.
Right. I love Draisaitl as a one-off today.
Dane in the chat says
you can always play McDavid too.
Dane says Hughes is always a better GPP play than the projection show. His floor is not there compared to other defensemen because he doesn't block shots, but the upside is there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's one of those things that, remember, whenever you're looking at the lineup HQ, you're looking at the projections. These are mean projections. Right? So, this is the average. So, like, the standard deviations of some of these players are much different than one another. Right? That's why I said, like, someone like JT Compher, I go, yeah, here's someone that can get me a 0. I mean, like, this is like, or he could have 3 points and he could have 27 fantasy points. But a lot of times he's going to give you a literal 0. You go, was he even on the ice? It's like, oh yeah, he was on the ice for 19 minutes and still provided 0 fantasy points. Right.
Yeah.
That's much different than some of these other guys. And then you have the opposite type, right? You have like someone that the guys that like Matt Roy. It's like, great. He gives me like nice 6 or 7 points.
Yeah.
Right. He'll block some shots. He may have 1 shot on goal. Maybe you'll luck into an assist. It's very hard to see Matt Roy get like 20 points or anything. I mean, like it's like, oh, his mean projection seems pretty good for his price, but he's never really going to win you. He's rarely going to get a lot of points. He's just not going to get a 0.
Right.
So anything else on the slate that we should look out for? Because I mean, I think we covered the core stuff.
We covered all the teams that I wanted to cover. Yeah.
I mean, who's playing? Tampa Bay doesn't project well at all.
No,
Toronto,
but I mean, they always have upside.
Right. Like who's playing? Like Austin Matthews. I mean, we take a look at like the high end of the projections. Yeah. I mean, this is a huge slate. So is it the type? See, the thing is, Tim, in the smaller field stuff, the difference in projection between Pastrnak and Kucherov is 4 points mean. Right? The difference between Pastrnak and McKinnon to Austin Matthews is about 4 points mean. Connor McDavid, almost 4 points. Rantanen, almost 4 points. Nylander, even worse. Nylander's like 7 points lower mean. Now, one would say, and I'm obviously the game theory guy, people look at me and go, I'm the contrarian, I'm the crazy person that's like, well, if Pasternak's going to be chalky, if McKinnon's going to be chalky, why don't you play Austin Matthews, or why don't you play Kucherov, or why do you play Nylander, or go down to Panarin or Sidney Crosby or whatever the hell down here? I don't think people realize that the chalk on a 13-game slate versus like a 3-game slate is not as chalk. NHL's a weird. If this was soccer, Tim, it would be a different story.
Yeah.
Soccer, much more efficient. In NHL, like, I wouldn't be shocked if Pasternak was in the $40 GPP.
Right.
I wouldn't be shocked if Pasternak was 23% owned.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, people would look at that and go, he's one of the higher owned players on the slate. It's like, yeah, but Austin Matthews is
I don't
like
think he's going to be that high owned, though. What's
right,
that?
right. That's what I'm saying. It's not like 40, 50, 60. Right. It's not. It's like maybe based on these projections, McKinnon and Pasternak probably in those type of contests, because they're smaller field, maybe they should be 32 to 35% owned.
Right.
Maybe they should. That should be their efficient ownership.
I'm playing the 400 tonight, and I don't think any of these guys are going to be over 20%. Any of these high-end guys.
Right. But the thing that I'm saying, Tim, is that playing Kucherov or Matthews at 5%, it's like, well, the 5 and 20 is a big difference. But it's a 4-point mean change.
Right.
And you don't have to beat as many opponents. Right.
Yeah.
It's not like playing the 5,000 person contest GPP. It's like you're not getting as much leverage as you think, because the ownership isn't as high as it should be anyway. Now, I can't speak for this specific slate because you always get outliers.
Right.
But you take a look at the lineups that I play in NHL, and I have been doing well. This is my first year playing NHL DFS, and I don't overthink some of this stuff. And I just go, I'm just going to play. I look at the optimal, right? The optimal, which doesn't include correlation or anything. The optimal is like 116.85 right now. And I'm like, I'm barely ever playing lineups that are less than 10 points below that.
You don't need to in hockey.
Right.
Right.
So it's like if going from McKinnon to Kucherov for barely any price difference knocks off 4 points of projection, what ends up happening is I end up playing like all the chalky value pieces in my lineup just to keep my projection up. And it's like, I'd rather just why don't I just play Nathan McKinnon and just I could find a way to get ownership in multiple spots elsewhere. You're just dropping too much for the smaller field types of contests.
Right.
Now, if you told me Pasternak was going to be 60% owned in the 222, then that's a different story. But I get the sense, obviously, my limited sample size of like maybe 30 to 40 slates, it just doesn't. I expect it to happen, and then it just doesn't happen. It just goes, oh, it's kind of like spread out a lot. Even Connor McDavid is 4% owned. Even
you're going to see
Nylander is 3% owned, and okay, so I don't need to make absurd types of projection sacrifices in order to win these things.
Right. You're not going to see much condensed ownership tonight.
Cheap goalkeeper, Vejmelka, is he the we didn't talk about Florida, right?
Yeah, Vejmelka, maybe. Maybe Igor 79, Jari 79, Vejmelka 72. I think Sorokin at 73 might be a good GPP play against Colorado. You should see a ton of volume. Yeah, I'm not paying over $8K for a goalie. I can tell you that much.
Well, the larger the slates gets, this is very similar in soccer with goalkeeper. In general, the smaller the slate is, the more you should prioritize the win bonus.
Right.
The larger the slate is, the more you should prioritize finding some cheap goalkeeper that's going to, right? You may not even know which one it is, but there's going to be 2 or 3 cheap goalkeepers that put up 20 plus points. And there's enough of them to choose from that just find them. It's just that when there's only 3 or 4 games, sometimes there's none of them. Sometimes none of them happen. And you might as well just take like the safe 15, 16 points from like a favorite goalkeeper and be done with it, because there's only so many. There's not as many to choose from, and they're all going to be decently owned. Right. I don't see any. Do you think any goalkeeper on this slate is going to be more than 10% owned?
No. I don't. There's going to be a lot of like 6, 7, 8% goalies.
Right. But I just get the sense that Vejmelka is going to be, if you're going to pay down, you're probably playing there because I don't think Florida is going to be very owned. And I'm assuming that the home goalkeeper against a team that, Florida could take a whole bunch of shots, right? Volume-wise.
Definitely. Definitely. Right? Yep.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Igor. And whenever I play Igor, he gives up 4 goals and gets pulled.
Me too.
That's just, it always happens. It just, I never get his good games. I always get his bad games.
Me too.
How about Marc-Andre Fleury pairing him up with the Wild players? I mean, he's 8K.
How much is he? 8K. It's too much. Too expensive for me. It's a good spot though.
So Jerry and Igor are 100 cheaper, and it's like, no, that's fine, but the extra 100 for Fleury.
I just have a rule. I never go 8K or above.
Do you set that in lineup HQ? Oh, you hand build, so
I hand build.
You can do that in lineup HQ.
Yeah, I never go over 8K.
So, anything else on the slate that we should know about? Are we waiting for any injury news, or is there anything that we have to? I mean, it seems like for 26 teams on the slate, I don't think there's anything like where it's like, oh, this guy may not play, maybe a healthy scratch, or this guy maybe other than the Brian Rust thing.
Other than the Brian Rust thing, I don't think so. We already know that Kaprizov is out for Minnesota. So, yeah.
And I always want to promote our NHL prop model, which is tied to our projections.
Yeah.
You can get this separately as part of our Pick'em and Props and Pick'em package, which we were running a sale. It's still, even if it's off sale, it's still too cheap. And you can download our projections, statistical projections, and use them any way you want. So I could download them, and I could work with them in Excel, and I could go to all the sports books, all the pick'em sites, and do whatever I want. But if you're not betting as much in volume or something like that, and you just want, like, here's the top 20 edges or something based on our projections, based on what lines are currently up on books, right? Because I'm guessing that the shot props may not be up because they're not being listed here. Like, you just go to the top 20 and see, and just go. You're probably betting on DraftKings. DraftKings tends to have the softest lines.
Yeah.
And you can just go here. And, I showed on yesterday's show, Tim. I literally did it live on the show. And I said, here, I'm just going to go. Because we only had one game yesterday. So it was easy.
Right.
So it's like, go to the top ones. I just went on DraftKings and I went ding, 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 ding. $30 each. And I ended up losing money. But, I mean, you'll have losing days.
Of course.
Right. But I mean, typically, my ROI in NHL props hovers between 8 and 12%.
Right.
So, like, if I'm able to get down like $2,000 in NHL props on a given day, spread out amongst, I mean, some days I may have 100, somewhere between 60 and 100, sometimes even more. I mean, an 8% edge on $2,000 in volume is what? I mean, we're talking about $160.
Right, that's good.
Right,
8%.
And you know how long
ROI is good.
Right, and you know how long it takes me? It takes me like 20 minutes.
Right.
So, like, that's why I say my hourly rate is like $600 an hour on NHL. I'm doing great. I just wish there were more games so I could put in more bets.
Right.
But you could do that here on the prop model. We also have Pick'em. We have everything. If you're doing, the Prize Picks Underdog, same thing for the DK Pick 6. If you have a state that has Pick 6 available on DraftKings.
Are you in a state that has that?
No, not yet.
No,
not yet.
Not either.
Right. And you could do an NBA. I don't think that they don't have NHL ones yet. But yeah, we have that as well. So that's part of our props and Pick'em package, which is also part of our premium. I mean, if you're a premium member here at RotoGrinders, you get this as it is. So join. Click on that link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. And Tim, what other NHL content is coming out today for premium members?
Should be Slate summary, expert survey, and we'll be in the Discord all day for any questions that you guys have or any news.
Any questions at all?
Any questions?
Any questions at all? Who's playing? Who's in? Who's out?
Right.
What lines are you targeting? Anything. I mean, it's
anything.
It's a pretty healthy
just ask us.
Community.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
other
great
people will have,
Discord channel.
there are a lot of people. If you go to the RotoGrinders NHL rankings, there's a lot of people in there that are in the upper echelon of the ranking there. So it's not just Tim and Taylor and Dane and occasionally me, or that they're actually, there are other very top NHL DFS players in there, and everyone's pretty, even though we're all competing against one another, still pretty friendly.
It's very friendly. Yep.
So you could follow Tim at Tasteful Tides on Twitter. Are you going to be on NBA? Are you going to be on NBA tonight also, Tim?
I don't think so. Not tonight.
Right.
I was on last
night. A lot of times you are. Right.
Yeah.
We got NBA tonight. Right. We got.
Yep.
We got stuff. We got NFL coming up. We'll be doing a preview, Week 18 preview tomorrow. Then there's no Thursday night game, right?
I don't think so.
So maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the schedule is, but there is NHL on Thursday.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so maybe we'll be talking more about NHL on Thursday as well. Friday, GPP strategy for the Week 18 slate. Squirrel Patrol will be back on for that. So hit that subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell. Hit everything on your screen. Hit the notification bell. Hit the like button. Nice free content here. Helps us out in the algorithm. Hit that thumbs up button. And like I say, I'm playing all these NHL contests tonight. So if you're in my contests, I hope you're not playing the same lines as me, and I wish the worst of luck to you, right? I hate when people say, "Oh, good luck to you." It's like, well, we're competing against one another. Right. Like if I was playing your contest, it's like, no, I want you to come in second.
Right.
Which is fine. You'll take second. Second is fine. Right.
Right.
My attitude is if I come in first, I wish second upon all of you.
Right.
And if you come in first, Tim, you'll obviously have no problem with me taking second.
You can get second.
I can.
Yeah.
But one of us should get first.
That's right.
If I had a choice between one of us and other people, I want one of us.
I'm still rooting for me, Blender.
But you're at least rooting for me second as the second.
Yes. Yeah.
Close. It's not a very close second, though.
No.
It's quite far away second. Actually, the difference between first and second is probably way farther than the difference between second and 500th.
Right.
Okay. So take care of everything. Going to the Discord, rotogrinders.com/Discord. Remember, it's free. It's free. Join us in there, and I'll see you tomorrow because I'm always here Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders Today.